Yes, I hope you guys are good. I hope you are good. Right. So, right. Okay, today this is what we want to do, ladies and gentlemen. This show is coming courtesy of a request that has been given by one of our participants on the show, and they requested that we do this particular show pertaining to the issue, yeah, blessed Geza, just to take a candid look at Geza, his emergence, what he said from the beginning throughout to today, how he captivated people, how he sold his dream to people, how he got people engaging in a conversation at a time when people were saying that we need action to be taken. We all witnessed some of the things that he advocated for, some of the things that he asked Zimbabweans, to do. We witnessed the actions, that took place, etc, 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 etc. So the issue was to say, we all saw Geza, coming in at a time that many believed or still believe that there was a gap. There was no, or there is no opposition. There was no opposition, there's no opposition. And here's Geza who came in. We saw his first interview with Darabi. I know Darabi is currently going through, legal processes. I saw him appearing in court a few days ago for his trial, where he's being charged in relation to Blessed Geza, the interviews that happened or the broadcasts that happened via Heart and Soul TV. So there's a lot, that has happened ever since Geza came onto the scene. So those of you, that remember, when Geza first appeared, he appeared on one of Blessed Mhlanga's shows, the Free Talk. Quite sure most of you are familiar, with the Free Talk, where Blessed Mhlanga brings in folks from different persuasions to have a conversation around the issues that will be happening in the country, business, politics, etc. And Geza was one of those people. And we all got to know Geza, that he's a war veteran. He was a ZANU-PF Central Committee member. And he came out strongly about, against the leadership of Emmerson Mnangagwa, saying that Varasa Guarari and Guararima soldiers, something like that. And we all witnessed how the situation escalated from a position that he occupied, whereby he was talking on behalf of himself and on behalf of the war veterans, that Emmerson Mnangagwa is giving them a raw deal. And they were the people that were behind the ascendance of Emmerson Mnangagwa. For Emmerson Mnangagwa to be where he is today, it is as a result of the actions that were taken by the war veterans back in 2017, together with the military and the Zimbabwean folks that participated in the processes of 2017. We are all familiar with those processes. And then we began to see these guys, coming together and saying the same things over and over again. And then it got to a point whereby they got to do this for the benefit of every, Zimbabwean. And their core was that Emmerson Mnangagwa has to go. He has failed. Back in 2017, it was removal of criminals who had surrounded the former president, Robert Gabriel Mugabe. And now it was the criminals in the form of who are now popularly known as the Ganandas surrounding Emmerson Mnangagwa. And not only did they accuse those around Emmerson Mnangagwa, they also accused the man himself for presiding over a rotten system that prejudiced the Zimbabwean people, that condemned the Zimbabwean people into poverty, that created a two-tier system in Zimbabwe of those who were super rich and those who were super poor. And he said that was a travesty. He said that is not what they went to war for. He said that they need that to be addressed, that needs to be sorted. And the only way that can be sorted is the removal of Emmerson Mnangagwa from power. We got to hear some of them, they were talking about the general, that the general, he needs to take over, or the general needs to come in. And then we started to hear the conversation around a transitional authority. We started to hear the conversation around a change of the government system. We started to hear the names of the people. He gave us names. People that he said, these are the corrupt people that have captured Emmerson Mnangagwa. We got to hear of a diagnosis of Emmerson Mnangagwa that the president has got vascular damage. And as a result of that, he is no longer fit for purpose. Because there are people who are now running the executive, who are making decisions on his behalf. He is now incapable of making decisions. And as such, this man needs to go. He's no longer fit for purpose. He's no longer competent on the basis of his mental capacity, cognitive ability. He no longer is the gentleman that needs to be presiding over the affairs of the nation. So he has to go. And we witness everything, that happened. One thing that I can say which was quite interesting, an observation that I made in the beginning, because I was there in terms of discussing everything that was going on. When Geza came onto the scene, he was easily approachable. I had occasions where I spoke to him, trying to get him to come to the people, trying to get him to come and have a conversation with us. I even put out a post on one of the days where I agreed with Geza and the folks, that were running with him at the time, that he would come, he would talk to us. And there was an overwhelming response to that post. And there was a lot of expectation from folks across the political divide, folks across the globe that wanted, to come in and listen to the man, interrogate the man, have a conversation with the man. But that did not happen. I said at the time that when the time is right, maybe I might discuss the events of that day. Maybe I might discuss the events of that particular time. Because there was a lot, that took place on that day. But I took it on the chin and said, it is what it is. But the point that I'm trying, to bring out here, and as far as that conversation is concerned, is we had Blessed Geza, who came on, and there was a belief that there were people that were backing him. There was a belief that the military intelligence was behind him. There was a belief that progressive forces within the security sector were behind him. And here's an individual that was open to the public, that folks like me could reach out to him, have a conversation with him about what he was doing, what he was thinking, and what he wanted going forward. But there came a time when he was no longer accessible. There came a time when it became virtually impossible to get in touch with him. It was because of the progressive nature of what he was now all about in the grand scheme of things. Some folks used underhand tactics to try and marshal him, to try and control him, to try and move him away from being easily accessible. And I even mentioned that, there was this, conversation, that went behind the scenes to say, Jed is a CIO. He's not to be trusted. He's not a guy, that should be speaking to Geza. He wants to trade Geza, and he wants, he's working for Emerson Mnangagwa. He's a plant. He's a what? Because he used to do this. Some of the accusations that I don't even know. But I took it on the chin and I said, that is the nature of the situation. Sometimes you don't get, when somebody falls under the control of certain individuals, and when they are being controlled by certain elements, trust me, in this game, anything can happen. But I understood it from the perspective, Yakuti, here's an individual that started from an individualistic perspective that then grew to be a nationalistic perspective. So at the end of the day, you would find that when they climb up the hierarchy of a certain level of importance, then they become, they are no longer within your reach. And that is quite understandable. Everybody has to understand that. Everybody has to understand that. Even when Emerson Mnangagwa did run away, escaped through the borders of Mozambique and ended up being in South Africa, trust me, he was accessible to certain folks, individuals, that could easily reach out to him, because at that particular moment in time, He was not in a position where he is, today, where he is no longer accessible. It might be a false equivalence, that I'm trying, to bring here, but at the end of the day, all the picture that I'm trying to put it here is to say, Kuti, there was a transition, or there was a period whereby you could easily access him, and then as the time went by, the individual was no longer accessible on the basis Yakuti. There was something bigger at play than merely me wanting to have a conversation with him. And that was quite understandable. Munhu akaita chiremu, munhu akaita chiremerera, munhu akaita a lot of weight, munhu akaita akapinda paposition yekuti you could no longer be individuals that could easily get in touch with him. All what we ended up waiting was to hear from him, was to hear his voice, was to wait for him to come to us and speak to us. And as he did that, people began to look at who he is, who he was, and who he now represents, or what he now represents. So on this journey, ladies and gentlemen, there are things that you can consider to have been true. There are things that you can consider to have been lies, depending on where you stand, right now. Depending on how you have been assessing and analyzing the situation ever since his ascendance. So along the way, there were people that believed in him. There were people that stood with him. I'm not talking about any ordinary people here. Just as somebody, who's not understanding the circumstances that are obtaining, in Zimbabwe, but folks, that have been clamoring for a change for a very long time. Those that had their own belief systems and those that had their own position in terms of the kind of change that they wanted to see when it comes to our nation called, Zimbabwe. You saw individuals, some of them, I will not shy away from saying this, who stood solidly behind Nelson Chamisa on the belief that he was the route to the change that we are seeking. He was the timely gentleman who could take us to that promised land. But some folks decided to say, could hang on a minute here. Here we have got an individual who's giving us this. And as things stand right now, we are at a position whereby we don't know whether we are coming or we are going. And this is what we have now. So we would rather stand behind this individual, support them wholeheartedly, 100%. Give them our support, moral support. And some folks were even saying, if he calls for this, I am prepared to make the journey to Zimbabwe and stand in solidarity, with him. But there were folks, that were against him from get-go. I'm not talking about Warakashi, because Warakashi, they've always maintained, their position. I'm talking about the people that were yearning for a change. But there were some folks, that said, no, he is not the right person to take us there. He lacks quite a lot when it comes to taking, when it comes, to this journey. Right. So, sorry about that interruption. I was attending, to something. Yeah. So, that is where we are. So, as per the request, I put out a post to say I'm inviting 4 individuals, two that supported Geza from get go, two that opposed Geza. But during the course of the time, there are folks, that said, no, you need also to include people that supported him and ended up not supporting him into this conversation. Because it is important to get to understand their perspective, why they had to change, their mind. Or those that did not support Geza, but ended up supporting Geza and still support Geza up to now. Because it is important to also get their perspective. So this meant that I had to broaden, this thing and begin to have a conversation that is holistic, that looks at the emergence of Geza, what he stood for, and where we are, today. So the question was, do you still believe that is a vehicle for change? Do you still believe that whatever it is that he called out for would become a reality? Or you stand by what you stood with from the beginning to say that this was a ruse, to say that this was nothing other than another chapter in our political life whereby things get thrown at us. We have a conversation around that. It dies a natural death and we move on. And yet the things in Zimbabwe are not changing. So I had people that had responded to me saying they want to be part and parcel of this conversation. I'm waiting for them, to come through, but Royalty is one of them that had said he wants to be part and parcel of this conversation. It is important that they come into this conversation because they want to say something about, the topic. So my brother Royalty, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I am good. Thank you very much, for staying true to your word. And you said, you know what? I want to be part and parcel of this conversation. Count me in. I want to be your guest. And actually, you are in line with what Geza did.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is it about him that made you to go hook, line, and sinker?
Okay. First of all, I think there is a whole chunk of stuff that we need to understand, and I think just thank you for bringing this on this show. Like for us to understand where Gaza is going, we just need to understand the problem that we have first, which is the problem that we have is not only Zambia. The problem that we have also exists within our community and our youth. The very same people that are backing ZANPF, the very same people that are being recruited to support this ZANPF nonsense, they have no idea what they're doing. And I can tell you right now, 95% of ZANPF officials, they have their families secluded in the Western world here. And that country, there won't be any country in 10 years' time because it's going to be a shell. They are looting everything. And in the Western world, no one can stick there. Now the immigration policies are tense across all over Europe. You come to America, you go to Europe, wherever you go to Canada, it's totally tense. No one is going to be living there except the millionaires. Yet you have people from our country and building in the foreign language. I'll tell you one thing. From what Geza said, because he's the only person who spoke something that has got sense. Regardless of your political affiliation, I don't care if you're ZANPF, I don't care if you're Triple C, I don't care because I don't subscribe into any of those. But one thing that I can tell you is that we need a movement that is rooted into people, and it should be a youth-led movement. All the stuff, because if you look at okay, if they win, ED must go, then you install another person. What do you expect to be different? Nothing but the worst, because everyone who is fighting is not fighting to liberate the oppressed, but he wants to be a new oppressor. That's what they've been doing ever since he took over. And it even becomes so hard because they know what it takes to remove someone because they've participated in removing them. So once they install, they even make it triple or more than that to protect themselves being taken off. So one thing that I like about what that guy did, firstly, it was the spread of information. He wasn't saying, oh, okay, let's remove so and so and put so and so. He's stating facts. We have 60 million being used on senseless things like this. We have a certain amount being used on senseless things like this, which most of the people are busy out here saying, let's go ahead with ZANU-PF 2030 this, 2030 that. They are being given $20 to mess up with their future. They have so many more years, and it's so pathetic to see that the youth, 26 teenagers and 26, 27, 28, 25-year-old people are the ones which are advocating for this nonsense of the same people that are being recruited into ZANU-PF Youth League, and they are the same people whose future is being messed up with. Do you think when Emerson Mnangagwa leaves the State House, you're going to have his family staying in Zimbabwe? No, you're not going to see that. Look at it now. The Minister of Finance is based in Switzerland. His family is based in Switzerland. Who is paying for that? Your own taxes. And that's ridiculous. You have someone who is saying, oh yes, ZANU-PF should be the party leading. Yet you have your own patriots, your own leaders. They don't even have faith in your own country. How do you think they're gonna go and fix the hospitals? Because their families, they don't even seek treatment from those hospitals. They don't care. It is becoming the mining space for them in any way you can think of. So for people to, of course, people would come and say, okay, what Geza was doing was wrong. I would come and say, what solution did you have in mind? Because he had the guts to come and say, this is not what we fought for. Obviously, we know that we cannot trust him, but he's the only person with the viable solution. What else can we believe in? In someone who is just posting messages that it's going to be fine? Okay, what are you doing to make it fine? There are only two options. It's either you stand with the people, you say we resist. If they bring violence, we fight back. Whoever survives, we're going to take it from there. Because this is our country. This is not a farm. You can't treat people like animals in a farm that you own a land and you own anything that is in it. Secondly, is either you do a tactical movement, which we have never seen in the history of opposition ever since Morgan Tsvangirai left opposition. And I'm gonna be fair. I don't care which political party you subscribe in, and I don't subscribe into any of those. But what we need, our answer doesn't come from ZANU-PF. Our answer doesn't come from the opposition. Our answer is going to come from the youth-led movement. And what people should be focusing on right now, you should be focusing on coming up with a strategy to plot a youth-led movement. And with the support of the people that are saying, we didn't go to war to fight for this. We should not be saying, oh, okay, so we should put you in power. No, that was your chance. You lost it. They're the same people who installed Emerson. Now, if they're really rooted into people connected to the community, they're so much interested in building the future, they should be the one making the youth-led movement. That's where the solution is going to come from. Otherwise, this mumbo jumbo of saying, okay, we remove Mnangagwa, we put his friend, we remove his friend, we put... All those people have been made dirty. That's one thing about politics. And you cover my back, I cover yours. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. Those people have been rescued by Mnangagwa and his regime so many times. What makes you think that they're not going to rescue him? When he took over, they said we're targeting the criminals around the president. Who are those criminals? Were they arrested? Even if they left to other countries, we have diplomacy policies. It was supposed to be in their interest to say, all this money that they are looting, any sane government can sign a deal with a foreign government and say, I'm going to pay you $6 million today. I want those people brought into justice. I want them into my prisons. No foreign government will say, you dispute that. Any foreign government, you give them whatever you have to give them. Or the money that they've lost, they were supposed to prosecute those guys. They were supposed to bring those guys back to justice. They were supposed to follow the assets, seize the assets, and bring them back, and then pour that back into the society where it was taken from. But simply because they were not fighting to liberate the oppressed, but they wanted to be the new oppressors, which is the reason why we have this mess today. And I'll tell you why this mess is going to continue, and unless we have youth intervening. ZANU-PF itself, it used the wrong formula, a very dangerous tool, which was tribalism. Kukurawunde was not a mistake. It was something that was done to cause chaos because of the unity that was brought by Joshua Nkomo. And if you realize, that man was loved from all the corners of the country because of the way how he was connected with the people, everything that he was speaking. He was even against of the things that our Mashonaland people were going through, because he was saying, why did we have our people fight in the war for everyone in the country to be free, yet we have people in Mashonaland who are being subjected to say, if you have a visitor, you have to go and report to the headman, you have to get the letter and clearance from the chief for you to be known that there is someone who is coming, and then you need to tell us for how long is he going to stay for. And then you're becoming the new Ian Smith.
Right.
What's the difference?
My brother, listening to what you just said,
Yes.
you are proposing an alternative to say that the youth of Zimbabwe must rise up. The youth of Zimbabwe must come up with this initiative, right? To
Yes.
free, to free themselves, in some way, if I can say that.
Yes.
So, okay, so on the issue of Blessed Geza, him coming out and him doing whatever it is that he did from the day that he came out until now, what is your position pertaining to him?
Yeah.
Are you saying that
Firstly,
he was the wrong
no, he did
individual
very good. He
to
did very good
spearhead
because,
that?
yeah, he did very good. And which is what I'm saying. Like, if people were very much rooted into change, they're supposed to take that. They were supposed to take opportunity of that chance, and take that man. Decide later. Okay, we don't care. This is happening. You are bringing it forward. We are in agreement with you. We're in solidarity with you. But now we need to make a deal. If we remove Emerson, we're not saying we're removing Emerson. We remove anything that is affiliated with him, and we need everyone brought to justice. People were supposed to take advantage of that, but what I know is that some people they were shying away, saying, "Oh, okay, we were going to wait for him to say we're going to see if he's going to be able to execute that by himself." You cannot tell me that you are a people affiliated or a people's movement, yet you don't want to participate on something that is going to liberate people. You want to be praised and say, oh, okay, he's the leader. Oh, okay, he's the one who contributed. Oh, he's the one who came up with the idea. People, they didn't back that man because they say, he's the one who came up with the idea. Let's see if he's going to execute it. Because they're not playing the games of standing for the people. They're playing the games of being seen, being recognized, being praised. Which is the reason why I'm saying we don't have the people that support the community. Geza was absolutely right. If we had oppositions, all the opposition people that were supposed to join hands with him and say, okay, you have worked for this system. Now you are giving us the information that you have. And the people who have, of course, there are some of the people who are part of the system who are not happy about it. And believe me, they have been in contact with Geza. And that was supposed to be an opportunity to hijack the whole thing and say, we're going to form a government of national unity, whatever it is. Let's dismantle this whole party nonsense. Let's appoint people by their knowledge, their commitment to this, and liberation of our oppressed people. Since nobody was liberated, only the few elites gained liberation. People are still suffering.
Okay. Yeah. Also, when he came in, there was this indication from what he was saying that he had the backing of the security sector. He had the back. Some people translated that to mean he had the backing of the army, the military intelligence, the war veterans, and and also. Yeah. Looking at what has happened from that time until now, do you think or do you believe that he had the backing of the security sector?
There is no way he was going to do that without the backing of the security sector. The following day, he was going to be in prison, or he was going to disappear. That's the reality that we know for the people who have lived in Zimbabwe and what we have seen on the news and everything. There is no way he was going to do all that without the backing of the security sector. And what I understand is that, which is an information that we yet to verify, but I know that within ZANU-PF itself, there are some of the people that have been threatened. There are some of the people that have been suspected to be working with the adversaries. And of course, he had the backup. But people, they were supposed to take advantage of that.
Right.
Our own people as the public, they were not even You're told to stay away. You're busy in town. You're not participating. You want him to what? To fight everybody on behalf of you? If
Right.
you're the one who is suffering. Yeah, that man can
Oh,
be bought. If ZANU-PF wanted to silence him, they can even give him 5 million. He can be good. But what about
absolutely.
the general public who doesn't want to listen to someone who is leading the liberation that is trying to free you as an individual?
Right.
Because you're not
Okay.
known anywhere.
All right, my brother. Can I hold you, right there? I want to bring
Okay.
in Cooksman into the conversation.
All right.
Cooksman, I understand as it stands, right now, you are against Geza. But in the beginning, you were in support of Geza. What happened? Cooksman.
What's up, Uncle Jay? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead. What happened? Why this change? You were for him. What is it that he said in the beginning that attracted you to him? And then now you are against him. What is it that you discovered along the journey that made you to take the position that you are now sitting on, right now?
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. The thing is, I've been trying to, as someone, nekunzwisisa kuti opposition is kind of incapacitated to fight ZANU-PF. Ndichitarisa zvangu inini, because the mechanisms are kudiwa to dismantle ZANU-PF. It's either people are afraid or we don't have the necessary tools to fight ZANU-PF. So I've always thought kuti tikawana ZANU-PF kunetsana kwainenge ichiita, it becomes weaker and weaker by day. Like kuti seipapapa Geza is ZANU-PF, right? And I believed kuti paakatanga nyaya dzake dzedzi ane vamwe vanhu vamusapota vari very powerful in ZANU-PF, or probably maranks probably ku-army or any other security sector yemunyika medu, because honestly you can't just walk up one day took up president without any backing of sort. So I've always wanted to see ZANU-PF ichiparara in any way, form or shape. Saka kwakauya Geza ndakati aiwa iri ndo dhiri nyama plus papa nenyaya yaka ye2030 whatever dzaitaurwa dzedzedzi. Saka takati ndo imwe nyaya tatiri worried nayo, because we've always hoped kuti at least probably though kumashure kwese we've been struggling kuti tibvise ZANU-PF through my elections, maybe nekufamba kunenge kuchiita time we can always find dzimwe nzira dzekuti tinokwanisa ita sei kuzopedzisira taibvisa. Saka pakatanga kutaura nyaya dzekunzi 2030 probably kana vakatoiswa zvachose pane pasina nzira dzekuvabvisa maelection abhanwa, unenge uchingofunga ora saka zvichazodiwa, right? Saka ZANU-PF yatova one part state and things like that. Saka pakauya Geza ndakati aiwa mudhara vauya votimisira 2030 zvakare, nematauriro avaita vairatidza kunge munhu ane simba rakanyanya ende vanozvitemba nekuva nekunzwisisa kuti kuda pane vanhu vanovatsikira vari powerful. But nekufamba kwetime ndakatozoona izvo mudhara yaitotemba nesu ameno timu rake raidhila naro, but especially pakazonzi paya vanhu ngavaende muroti papasina. Ndakaona kuti papasina kana urongo hwanga uripo. I was expecting kuti no ndara tichaonawo vari kumberi kwevanhu vanhu vachidii vachiteera. Ndoona munhu angobuda arita mavhidhiyo paYouTube kunaka vanhu probably vanhu vaitongofundzira kuti no vanhu vari kuda action mudhara, sai mukangotaura vanhu vachapinda muroti zvichienda pachirwa malive ndo panozoona no man kutaura uyo haana kana skill haana kana plan, ende zvandaifunga inini kuti zvichashanda nemashandiro andaida kuzviita hazvisi kuzobuda, because now as it stands it seems as if now iye mudhara wacho atova patrouble yakatodarika yataitofungidzira, ende zvaaiti kuchanakirwa tiri veaction hapana kunakirwa kwatichaita, because the next thing probably tinoita kutodemba kuti mudhara wedu adi asungwa. So inini zvangu I never expected much from Geza as kuti aizodeliver anything chinoshamisira, even if dai akakwanisa kuva successful vakapinza another faction of ZANU-PF. It wasn't gonna make a lot of change in terms of kuti for us, but the thing is the more they fight, the more I believe the more they become weaker, because if you realize kuti even wanaka Sukwere nana Mzembi pavakadzingwa kuzanu, everyone anenge adzingwa kuzanu, they know what needs to be done. They know, zvese zvatiri kusangana nazvo. Ivo vana Geza yavo, they've been in ZANU PF. Kana vangoburana ndo pavanotanga kutaura chokwadi. Chese chavanenge vataura nyaya dzecorruption ne, and it's very unfortunate that we don't have a viable opposition. Honestly, this was a very good opportunity for them to now make more people understand kuti, because izvezvizvi mashoko aitaurwa naGeza akataurwa naNelson Chamisa kana kuti neni kana kuti nemi mune muchinzi muri vatengesa, but kana akataurwa nemuovheti achitaura kuti no, mari dziri kubiwa, zvinhu zvakaresvika apa nepapa nepapa nepapa. Kune vamwe vanhu izvezvi, vamwewo vakatoenda vaya vana chimbwido panguva yehondo, bekuti vakanzwa Nelson Chamisa achitaura about nyaya dzecorruption kana whoever ari kuopposition, they think kuti vanhu vangori anti-progressive, right? But kana Geza akataura as one of them, they start to understand and see things in a different way. I thought kuti dai papa ine opposition yangwara, we were going to witness my press conference after press conference, because it was going to be good for the future, because now you'll be bringing more people to light to make them understand kuti paya patinenge chimbotaura hatipenge, but otherwise tichitokonza zvichionai vamwe venyu havakuzvitaura. And this opportunity was not utilized well. There's a lot that could have been done in the opposition, and that could have worked.
But Geza said, Geza said Kutizo, he had conversations with different stakeholders, including the opposition, and even went on to mention Nelson Chamisa is one of the folks, that he had a conversation with. But we did not actually see these individuals coming up and endorse or confirm that yes, we were in talks. What do you think was at play at that particular moment in time?
Yeah, there could have been talks behind closed doors, but as you know, most individuals or rather opposition leaders in Zimbabwe, I think it's because they understand the kind of creature that we are dealing, or rather probably they were just bored, because I don't get it because look, in as much as Geza is ZANU PF, but in politics, this is why you see kuti pese panoputsika opposition, even pakanga pana chavangu achita zvaita, ZANU PF supports that person. Ngonzora chaiko painetsanana naChamisa aisupportwa, maiona even vano kuZANU PF vachiti ndo opposition chaiyo, kuita mapress conference ekutaura kuti iyi ndo opposition chaiyo, campaigning for what, for another faction opposition. And that alone, zvinenge zvichisimbisa uye ari kuita zvaari kuita. It's not like they care or vaifarira Ngonzoro kana Chawangule, but it's for the purposes of breaking that thing totally, which is what could have been done. Even kutomusapota chaiko aifanira kana kutosapotwa for the sake of kuti kana zvichigone causing more and more chaos. We don't care about him. He's ZANU PF. He has benefited a lot from ZANU PF. Kana dai agona kungosapotwa zvokuti aite manyawi akonzeresa zvaanokonzeresa zvichidaro, kana ichiputsikawo netsana vachirwa nourayana hatinei nazvo, ndezvavo zvekuzanu ikoko. But I believe matactics ekupolitics, but izvi zvokuzoti ipapapa iye abuda ati tataura nhengo obuda kuti handizvizive, probably nyaya yekuti munhu ane achityawo zvake kuti maybe if I'm associated with this anoziva. Munoziva kuti problem one iri kuopposition that I've noticed, we've got too many lawyers. Anything chinoitwa chinombotanga chagarirwa pasi chakutombotariswa neziso rekuti alright kusvikazodai kulo zvinozodi that makes vazhinji vacho kuti madecisions avo ainenge aine kakutya kakanyanya, and at the end of the day hapana zvavanozoita. But to just sum it up, Angojet, inini I supported Geza because I thought it would cause more chaos in ZANU PF, thereby weakening ZANU PF. Probably pataizoitawo more 3, 4 or 5 years teta toapa state yekuti teta kutoona kuti alright fine, saka topinda neside trip toita sei. Unfortunately seems as if akatovabatanidza because ezvinezvika vakutangwa kutobatana more, because unotoona kuti paanenge achiti zvikananda zvazodai zvikananda zvacho zvoitobuda zvichitowedzera kupa vanhu kuti mota nemari sazonetsa manje. It's very unfortunate kuti Probably, I don't know, I can't really say I let him down, because honestly, if ndakamona ari kumberi kweany demonstration, because that's the same time yandakauya kuzimbabwe, I was gonna go and march with him, but I cannot be led into something nemunhu ari kuuya payoutube uye akavanda aiye achiti vanhu veaction achida kutanga, unoziva zvafa chero uchinyenga musikana, zvitori nani kutanga wangotaura kuti wewe kaunotambura wamuratidza way of life yako, tani kunokumbira hembe dzamukoma nemota yamukoma wamuratidza a different ningiri yekuti maybe wakapenga stereka, then ozoreza leta kuti hauna kana chaunacho. Ndozvaakatiita mudhara akauya panapa achiganza ndakazodai achiratidza kuti ane pawa maningi, imi tengai dhata chete mubva mamirira kuti takuzomona zvaari akatovanda, isi dhata takatenga zvakatiwedzisa mari dzedu, because atakutenga $45 reeconet rearea, saka zvinobohwa izvozvo ende hameno zvinoitika kwa25.
All right, Cooksman, if you can hold it, right there. Let me bring in Dr. Tadini. Dr. Tadini, welcome to the space. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, my brother. How are you? I think this is an essential conversation, a critical one.
Absolutely. I just brought in, Cooksman. Cooksman was for Geza in the beginning, and he is now occupying a different, station, right now. And then I brought in a question that spoke to, or the issue that which I want to believe, because when I'm looking through, or when I'm going over what Geza has been doing over the weeks and months that he's been with us, there were periods in his conversation where he would say, "Oh, I've done this," or "I've spoken to so and so," and then he puts people, on blast. He mentions certain individuals. To me, I took it as wanting to have a reaction from those, individuals, etc. That is how, I took that when he spoke about Nelson Chamisa, maybe he was hoping that the Chamisas of this world would come out and say something in support of him. When he addressed the junior soldiers, was of the opinion that he was rallying them up, to say, look, Isusu, we are the bottom feeders, and these guys are earning a lot of money. When he brought in Chiwenga, it says that you are the one who brought in Emerson Mnangagwa, and you are the one who is responsible, so you and your generals, you'll be taking out Emerson Mnangagwa. So we are looking at an individual who's saying these things in the hope of a reaction. But in my conversations with you throughout this whole period, you occupy the position of strengthening your organizations that you belong to, or joining organizations, because you stood against the point that opposition was dead in Zimbabwe. And you said opposition is not dead. But if you believe in the change that you so wait for and you so seek, you better join organizations that are preaching the same message. But here Geza was speaking that same message that may resonate with the opposition. But when you look at things, it appears as if he's standing alone. He never got the backing that most people thought that he had. He's this individual who's coming, he's talking to us, he's telling us, oh, they've got progressive, security apparatus, they've got this, they've got this, they've got this, but nothing is there to show for it. So, or in your evaluation, from start to where we are, what went wrong?
No, thank you very much, Ngoma Gerard. That is a critical question that you are asking. That is a critical question, and this is a critical conversation. So I really want to emphasize that I appreciate you going back to history and saying, people, let's have a candor conversation. Let's reflect on what happened. And I hope that our people will learn from the importance of looking at history in earnest. And because I have always also defended the position that we have a tendency of shying away from history. Things that we would have done, we have a tendency of trying to whitewash them and say, well, it doesn't matter, we're past that stage, there's nothing we can learn, let's do something else. And then because we have that tendency of whitewashing our history, we tend to repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again. So this is why I'm appreciating you holding this conversation, taking us back where it began, and then trying to walk to this position, and then looking at why people still support, why others changed their position, and the like. So I really have to appreciate that. Then now going to the issue. Before I start on the question that you asked, I need to emphasize that fighting ZANU-PF is not a pretend game, ladies and gentlemen. It is something chinemakuwa zvemashua. Let me speak in my native, ngataure mu language yamai vangu. Kurwisana neZANU-PF nezvairi kuita musystem ayo hachisi chinhu chekuti tinoita pasocial media tofunga kuti sekuona kwandaita movie yaVandemu, munhu haana kurohwa bhutsu zveshuwa otokudubuka. Unogona kuzosangana naye kumashopu oti hausiri wakarohwa bhutsu naVandemu ukatyoka mutsipa here, oti aiwa kwangu kuri kuacta. There's a clear difference between that and fighting the regime that ZANU-PF is. Zvikanzi munhu afa, atofa zvemashua. You have a lot of lists and a lot of cases that have not been addressed. Mune nyaya ya More Blessing, mune nyaya ya baba wangu Reverend Masaya. You have a lot of other. I just mentioned those two because they are the most latest statistics that people are referring to. And if you look at it, this is real. Muri yakatoenda, takatoenda kunamo. You attended Namo yoyo. Other people actually attended. And all this is because there are people that are fighting ZANU-PF. There are real consequences to the things that we are talking about. Kune vana vari muzvipatara vasina mushonga zvemashua. Kune vakadzi vari kufa as we are speaking, giving birth. Zvemashua, kwete zvekufungira. Kuti mumwe munhu anogona kutora picture yehospital yekuAmerica onyepa kuti ndeye kuZimbabwe, then oenda paground otonyatsoona kuti maternity ward munhu ari kupinda nebhaket rake, ari kunza zvicherere mvura. It's pathetic, but it's real. So kana zviri zvemashua zvinhu zvatiri kutaura izvi, we have to also understand that tinofanira kuteedza masolutions emashua, kwete masolutions ekunyepa kana kuti ekucreata in our mind. And this is where my problem came with Geza right from the start. Pretending that you have the ability to fight ZANU-PF when you do not. And people who could see through that would never actually come up to support you because they understand that this is not a pretend game. If we go out there, we are going to die for sure if it gets to dying. And you cannot do anything to defend us because it's not a pretend game. You cannot call me later on and say, oh, Tadina, you know what, I'm sorry, I was just trying to encourage people to get on the street. Because at that point, people would have died in earnest. Kune kutonaita mari nekutengesa makofini. Kune mhuri inenge yakutoti tobatanza mari yemacabbage. You see? And the men came with a lot of pretense. The first pretense is what you spelled out to me. I am talking to other opposition leaders. Opposition leaders had to say, no, he did not talk to us because it's not a pretend game. I cannot pretend that Mkoma Gerard, you have spoken to me when you have not, yet there are real consequences that can result in people being arrested or in people dying. I cannot do that. So I cannot blame opposition leaders that came out and say, no, this guy did not talk to us. They did not say, no, we don't want to talk to him. We have to remember that when we start to accuse and point fingers at them. Specifically with Advocate Nelson Chamisa. We come from different camps, and for years people know that I have a lot of ideological differences with Advocate Nelson Chamisa. But I'm going to defend him in this particular issue. He did not say, I don't want to talk to Geza. He said, I have not spoken to him, I have not seen him, but my door is open to everyone. And you didn't have a follow-up where he said, oh, ndakazoenda kuya. Pandaiti ndikutaura navo, pamwe ndaanza ndataura navo, but I was trying to incite him to talk to me. You didn't have a follow-up with that. I told you specifically from my principle and others that are in the executive of the institution that I belong to. We did not have any kind of conversation of that sort with him. So it starts there. You cannot be pretending with something that is this dangerous and then bring in people's names and expect the people who understand from years of experience that this is a dangerous game to pretend with you. You can't do that. You cannot come to the Masaya family that have actually lost an individual to this game and say, guys, we're going to pretend that I spoke to you yesterday about this thing that claimed one of your relatives, and I want you to also pretend with me. If they let you leave the door, then you are lucky. If anything, they will consider you an insult. And maybe you might not leave the door. because they will understand that you are the problem that perpetuates the system. So that was the first thing. Pretense. We have a pretense also when it came to what he was promising the population. He said to the population,
doctor, before you go on to the next point, can I just push back in on that one?
sure.
You said that at a time where we all know that there was a notice that was put out there to say that the authorities, they want to interview Geza, or they want Geza, and he came in, he dropped these names. I mean, this guy, him saying that he has spoken, to these guys. Were these guys not being trading on caution here? Because if they come out and said, "Oh yes, we've spoken to him," maybe the authorities would have gone to them and say, "Oh, you're harboring a fugitive. We want this guy."
Nkoma Gerard, I understand where you're coming from. But again, you notice where the problem is. We are creating an if situation. We have a person who is me, we have a person who's advocate, we have a person who's Elizabeth Valero. And these people are saying to you, I did not speak to this gentleman, as an example. But you do not want to accept what they are saying. You say, maybe because they are afraid, I'm going to create an alternative. An alternative is that Tadini spoke.
Can that not be a possibility though?
It is a possibility, but it is far-reaching because you don't have the evidence. And we cannot continue to do that as a people with something that is this dangerous. And if it was the only point where we have the only point of departure, I would even grant it to him. But maybe you are right. These leaders that we have are cowards, and they didn't want to accept that they were speaking to someone. So they are cowards beyond a journalist. They are cowards beyond Nkoma Gerard, because you tell us every day, na Geza. Yes, we spoke, sometimes he didn't show up, etc. And other people have done it who are not even that high ranking. So if we accept that narrative, what we're saying is all the leaders that we have in Zimbabwe are cowards as compared to maybe Chimama, as compared to you, or all these other people that openly claim that I have tried to talk to this gentleman, or I have successfully spoken to this gentleman. I would even grant it that it's a possibility if it was the only thing that deviates from the truth. But you do not say I'm going to feed the population during these times of upheaval. And the way I'm going to feed the population is, I will know that you are hungry where you are. If you claim that you will know that you are hungry where I am, it means you have a network that covers the whole of the nation and beyond, and that can collect data on each individual household situation without them extending a hand to you. That is impractical, and you cannot expect anybody who has a head on top of their shoulder to believe that. Because even when ZANU-PF does the same thing, although it does it for different reasons, when it allocates food and uses food to control people, it does not do it by guessing. It actually has the means to collect data and say, village using the sub-bookus and etc. Geza did not have the same structure, and everyone knew it. So that's another open lie to people who will think about the issue, and it cannot be accepted. There was also the issue of, I will react when people are arrested. We have a means to protect those that will be arrested. You will see what will happen when people are arrested. As we are speaking, we have over 100 comrades that we know who unfortunately followed the Geza issue and participated in it, who have not been helped. And the first victim was not helped until 73 days later. And this victim was not even helped by the efforts of the camp that we're talking about. The people that helped them are out in the open, and we know them also. It was an unfair incarceration, but given the promises that were made, and given that this is the person who gave you the platform, who, in lack of a better word, who springboarded you to fame, you should have done more. That did not happen. And it is still because of this issue of pretending that we have the means to fight ZANU-PF, pretending that we have the access to those means, pretending that we have an army behind us that is also going to do all this work. That is disastrous. I have to also then say, this disease of pretending does not only affect Geza. Unfortunately, in the past, it has also affected a lot of opposition political parties. whereby we pretend that we're going to guard the vote, we're going to do this, this is the most awesome thing that is happening, instead of telling our people the realities on the ground, and then tell them what resources are needed and what participation is needed from them, so that they don't continue to be stooges or supporters that have no direct contribution. As an example, we should have told our people that we do not have the money to cover all polling stations. We do not have the agents. We need you to pay that money or to be that volunteer. This is how we're collecting the volunteers. As opposed to coming and say, we have covered everything. This time we're good. Here, I am just showing you the problem of pretending when you are dealing with a situation that is a non-pretend situation, or the problem of building castles in the air, fictitious castles, when there is a real reality with consequences. We've been doing that for too long. I leave that one, Dolenda, on this one, Gerard, so that others can also comment.
Right, okay, yes, please.
The aspect of success versus failure, where you also deliberately misrepresent what success is. Geza on the 31st said, Vanhu ngatipinde mustreet. People did not go into the street, but rather than acknowledge that we have failed as a population in the goal that had been set, we lied to ourselves. We know we have succeeded by staying at home, which was a lie, because you began the activity with a set goal. You did not achieve that set goal, but there was a consequence which was positive, and then you took that consequence that was positive as if it was the intended goal. Then you came back and say, under that guise of the lie that you've told to yourself, you then came back and say, okay, maybe since I took this consequence to be a success, maybe I can now recreate it. You went back and said, okay, now chigarai kumba, since last time magagara kumba, and it meant you were acting out. Chigarai kumba. And then it doesn't happen. The reason why that is happening is because you are moving the ballpark and the definitions of success. We should never do that. Where we have failed, we have failed. We acknowledge it, then we say, how do we address it? Simple and straightforward. And as a people, we will be able to resist ZANU-PF and to remove it the moment that we start to do that. In that vein also, we have to liberate ourselves from people who lie to us that the only way for us to succeed is by leaning to functions of ZANU-PF or certain individuals. We need to lean into ourselves as citizens. Simply be active citizens in different institutions. I'll pick up this point and tie up to Geza and what our differences were, but I'll pause here so that others can also contribute. I think this is where it started. The pretending is where it started. And us also participating in the pretending kuti papane magap taizadzisa magap tega mufungwa medu sezvatata kuita imimi neni just now kuti pamwe Nelson aiti nyepera yeti abuda achiti guys handina kudya keke toti apa mwari kuti nyepera because akabvuma kuti adya keke tinozomunyima rimwe piece. So we came in and also filled in these other gaps. And then panyaya success panze kuti munhu abvumo ndatadza kubika sadza pakazobuda porridge munhu oti aiwa no ndaida kubika sadza but since pabuda porridge ndagona, then mangwana uchiti ora ndakambogona porridge reka ndichibika porridge robva rapundira ochizonyatsoziva kuti aiwa paipa akabika porridge hakusi kuti aigona kubika porridge, it was accidental, incidental. We need to do that as our people and be objective as to what we set, what we achieved, and what we did not, what corrections we need to make, and then make those corrections. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me hold you right there. And you brought out a point of pretense that everything that happened right there was as a result of this pretense thing that you've spoken about. But there are people that have come out and acknowledged what Geza has said in one of the achievements of the Geza revolution. I'm calling it, revolution. I know Kudzai MTC, does not want to hear the word revolution. He says it was just drama, theatrics, etc, etc. But there was this notion that was put out there, or there was this point that was put out there to say that Geza managed to stop the 2030 agenda, the talk of the 2030. Whatever it is that he did, he managed to stop that 2030 agenda.